Hey there, you're listening to the Not So Breakfast Show with Sasha and Ish. Alright, welcome to the podcast today, and we are continuing on our short mini-series is what I'm going to call it. We didn't know it was a mini-series when we just started talking last week about the invisible, which is all the stuff that you don't see that often sits behind people's success. So we wanted to unpack that and look at what happens behind the closed doors or under the waterline, all the things that have got someone to where they need to be. And this week, it's kind of like part two. We're going to look at the visible. What are all the things that you should be seen doing that's going to take you to the next level? Because if you're seen doing the right stuff, you are more likely to get the right opportunities. And to kick us off with this week's episode, Sasha... Well, I don't actually know how I'm going to introduce you. I'm just going, Sasha.
What I love about this week's episode being part two and the visible is with this new recording format, we're recording in video. So we are visible. You can see us this week. And already, just in the 1 minute intro you gave, I wasn't listening to you because I was looking at myself and going, oh, you're moving your head funny. Oh, you weirdo. Oh. So really fascinating to, when you start reflecting on the invisible stuff versus the visible, how it changes your behaviour when you are aware that you are being watched. So what is the stuff that people look at and see and make judgments about you, assumptions about you based on how you are visibly being? And I'm looking forward to learning from you this week.
Well, I do have to ask, while we're talking about visible things, what's the pink thing on the counter behind you? Because otherwise it's just going to annoy me.
So the pink thing is coffee from another coffee brand. I've been doing some... So I'm not even going to name the brand. In fact, I'm going to move my head so you can't see that anymore. I've been doing some taste testing of some other companies' coffee.
That's good, man. That's invisible. That's the research that people don't see, but now it's visible. Keeps you on your toes, keeps you ahead of the game, Sash. So one of the things I think you need to be seen doing, and it's something we've referenced in a past episode, which is like those unwritten ground rules, or those things that actually make a difference in a business to your ability to be promoted, get a pay rise, stuff that sits outside of your position description or your job description. It's the things that sometimes makes the biggest difference and the biggest impact to your opportunity. And one of them is be the culture. So if they have a culture or they want to generate a culture of X, you want to be seen being that, because if you're seen being that culture and fitting into that culture and being part of the solution, not part of the problem, you're more likely to get recognized and people are going, oh man, you know, when Sasha's around, the vibe's so good here. Or when Sasha's at the staff party, she's always stepping up and doing stuff. Like if you're part of that culture, it goes a long way to you being recognized for other things.
I think you're so right, and I feel personally attacked. Like, have you seen me at the staff party where I'm like, gets to about 9 o'clock,
you
and I'm
left.
like, oh, do we have to stay?
But while you were there, went hard early, danced with everybody, made sure everyone saw me. One of the things that I resist in this idea, and I want to just address the tension in it, is it feels like we're talking about faking it and just be seen to be the right thing. So I think we back up the truck before that and say it's a really good check-in to say, are you in the right place? Can you naturally just exhibit the culture? Is there a good fit in terms of what's important to this organisation? And if there is, then it's about saying, are you conscious about the energy that you bring to every situation? So I can think of scenarios where you can be in a family context and you sit around the dinner table and nobody talks much. And the parents can go back to their room and go, oh, you know, the kids don't say anything around the dinner table. And the kids are back in their room messaging each other going, oh, you know, mum and dad are in a bad mood, no one's talking at dinner. And every single one of those people could take responsibility and start a conversation. So if you want to have a family dynamic where you talk more at the dinner table, talk more at the dinner table. Like, lead by example.
Lead by the example. And that doesn't have to be with a position of leadership. So if you have a culture that needs a certain level of energy, in an authentic way, make your energy match visible. It's that classic where we go, you having a good time here? People go, yeah, I really like working here. I'm like, you should let your face know. You should let the outward expression, because sometimes our outward expression doesn't actually match how we inwardly feel. So we can really enjoy our jobs, be thankful that we have them, never express any thanks, never express any joy. And there's a disconnect between that. And so this is a real challenge to say you will be noticed for all the right reasons when you can bring a positive and appropriate vibe to every situation that you're in.
And that's also sometimes being willing to maybe put your hand up to be part of the solution. So when the social committee is thinking about running the Christmas staff party and they are looking for people to help out, putting your hand up for that stuff early is a good step for career progression, because you may not have to do it all the time, but actually being seen to be interested and wanting to get involved in that stuff rather than sitting back and go, well, that was a crap party. It's like if you were on the front foot and getting involved in a little bit at the beginning, then that would be recognized. And then even if it was a crap party, the fact that you were involved with it will help you rather than work against you.
Be a joiner.
Yeah, be a joiner. You can even, in your interview stage, say at the beginning, like, what is the culture around here? Like, what do you expect from people? Like, what's the average party? What did you do last staff event? And get some information, because to your point, if there's no gel there, if there's something where you're going, well, I don't want to do that, maybe this isn't the place for you to be applying your work. Maybe it's time to continue to look on. But if it's, the last party was this and this is the vibe that we're after and that fits with your values and who you are, you could just be a really good asset.
And you want to think about culture not only being expressed through social functions as well. So you might have come from an organisation where you have a culture of honesty and candour, and in a meeting someone says, I've got this good idea, what do you all think? And you say, I think it's a terrible idea. And then you just hear the room go, oh. And it's because you haven't realised that this particular organisation, their culture is, if you want to disagree, we do that privately afterwards. And I'm not saying whether that's right or wrong. I'm just saying if that's the cultural norm, then you want to understand what that is first and foremost. And similarly, if you're the person who's being criticised or your idea is being criticised, you check in and you go, maybe around here they just move fast, which means you just diss the idea, you improve it, you move on. It's not a culture of we're all just going to play nicely and then a little bit later you'll hear what we really think.
Another thing you can do that will help you as far as being seen doing things, so the visible, is when you recognize an issue or a problem or an opportunity, is don't just present it kind of like, here's an issue, what are you going to do about it? Give it some thought. So present the problem, the issue, the opportunity with some thinking. I have recognized that X happens around here. I was thinking about it, and one way we could address that would be why. And so suddenly what happens is when you're presenting that to a manager or a line leader, it just shows a little bit of initiative that you want to be part of the solution, that you're not just going, negative Nancy, here's your issues, or what are you doing about it? Chances are they may not be able to do anything about it because they've got a whole lot of other stuff that they're working on as well.
Hey, here's a great big bag of shit. Here you go. Bye now. Happy Friday. Bye. And that's what inadvertently we do when we go, well, we're drawing our manager's attention to a problem. Good for you. Have a think about how that might be solved. And you might have some options. You might say, if our budget was unlimited, I reckon we could do this. I know that our budget's tight at the moment, so I think an interim measure is this. Speed might be important. Short-term fixes, I'm just going to take all the poo outside. Let's just deal with it. And then next week, we're going to look for something more permanent. Bring some solutions. I love the idea too, in terms of this visibleness, about the weight of the way you express yourself. So if you are somebody who is visibly just regularly saying things like, oh, we got such a big problem here, or this is a challenge, or these people are always, and why don't we? What the visible reputation that you develop is for being a drama queen, because everything is a big deal for you. So one of the things we want to get good at is to be giving things the appropriate weight in terms of the intensity that we talk about them.
Another thing is to make sure that you are being cross-functional.
Ooh.
So cross-functional means that your role has an impact on different departments and different teams, and your ability to connect and collaborate with multiple departments is a skill set it's like a step up from just I'm going to get the job done and I'm going to do it really well. So your ability to be cross-functional is understand what the other departments do, understand how your actions or your department affects another department. Even the base level of that could just be don't talk other departments down. Very easy, and I'll just pick on the two main ones that probably get picked on in every business around the place is finance and marketing. So those two departments will be the ones that, they just end up being too slow or they don't understand what's going on around here.
Finance and marketing, they're really uptight.
Yeah,
They're
really
uptight, they're anal, they're ruly, they're always wanting our expense claims, and they're kind of officious, busy bodies, right? That's finance team. And marketing, not only do they miss deadlines, but they're kind of drug-taking, hippie, out there ideas people who never actually deliver anything useful to the business, and why do we spend all that money anyway? And everybody else in the business, almost without exceptions, including the finance people, think they would be better at marketing. I mean, is that your experience? Because everyone's an expert on it, right? Everyone's an expert on advertising. That'll
Absolutely.
never work.
And I think when we realize that we're dealing with multiple different departments, not every department works at the same pace. And not every department works in the same way. So if you understand how that department works, so for example, if you are going to marketing with your idea and then they're late on the deadline, it could have been because you gave them what you needed to give them, but you gave it to them in the wrong timing. It didn't fit into their cadence for all the other stuff they needed to produce. Or you wanted some creative input into stuff and they didn't have enough time to actually give it the right amount of thought. So even understanding all of those nuances within the department, within the speed, just because your team's quick doesn't mean other teams are going to operate at that speed. So having that cross-functional collaboration and connection ability is so crucial, and it's a really good thing to be seen doing.
Can you play well with others? Are you obviously playing well with others? Do you offer to help?
Another thing that you could be seen doing is ask questions in meetings, like engage. It's very well to just be sitting back and then looking around thinking, well, I hope someone else asks a question about that. But your ability to just step up or maybe voice something that other people might be thinking in the room, by doing that, we get some discussion going. So rather than that just being the awkward dead room and no one's asking any questions, be the person that's actually offering some questions.
We'll be right back.
If there was one skill that could double your income, advance your career, and increase your ability to influence, it is the skill of presenting. Whether it's on stage, in the boardroom, or at a job interview, the 30-minute presenter program will help take you to the next level. So check out our Instagram page, click the link in the bio, and get started on the 30-minute presenter program.
Yeah, and I love this idea of saying, how do I support the person who has the pressure on them at the moment? So the person who's running the meeting, it's going to be better for everybody if there's some questions or if there's some input or if people engage with it. Now, you and I both hate when sessions start and the person says, let's have an icebreaker. The very first thing you must do when you're running an icebreaker is not call it an icebreaker. It's just something that seamlessly happens. It's like a comedian standing up and saying, I'm going to tell you a very funny joke now. Like, it ruins it. But if you are a person who's leading an ice-breaking activity, you need people who get on board quickly and early. So if you are a participant in the meeting, one of the ways that you can be visibly supportive and helpful is just answer the question that they've raised. Or if they say, everybody into groups of 3, be the first person that says, hey, you, we're a 3. Okay, we're ready. Help build the momentum. And one of the other aspects of this to not be is please work hard to not be the dick that derails things.
Yeah.
Because in every group there's somebody when the facilitator says, so what questions do you have? There will be somebody who says, what time does the afternoon session start? And all of the momentum and energy in the room gets lost. It's not that that's not a good question. It's just a question that does not need to be asked of the room. Yeah. So recognise every time you are about to either intentionally or unintentionally derail and take energy from the room and go, don't be that person. Be seen to be a contributor, not a detractor.
And also notice that there is a tipping point between the person who is answering some questions at the beginning and the person that is always answering every question every single time, because there is power in the question and power in getting people talking, but there is a fine point where everyone's just going, Todd, would you shut up? But they don't verbalize it, right? They're just thinking it in their head. So your ability to be able to recognize if that was about to happen, how to get out of that, and say, hey, I'm the only one asking questions here. What does anyone else think? Would be a really good time to put that out in the room and then shut up and sit back and let everybody else talk.
Oh, it's hard, right? It's hard.
Yeah, it is. The only time you can wrap a joke and an icebreaker together is by saying this, Sash. How heavy is a polar bear?
I don't know, Ash. How heavy is a polar bear?
Just heavy enough to break the ice. And now that that's done... Genius. All right, next thing to be seen doing, and this, is just be on time and be present. Turn up to the meeting on time, if not slightly before, just to be there, maybe to help set up, and then be present in the meeting. Like, look at the person speaking. Don't be distracted. Be engaged. If you are seen doing that, it makes such a difference. If at the end of the meeting there is something that needs to be tidied up, just do it. Like, just do that kind of stuff. You would be amazed at how well that goes down. And it's not about being teacher's pet, but it's about recognizing that a lot of the people that step up, who can do the ground rules, who can be present, are the ones that people like and are the ones that get the opportunity as a result. So don't underestimate that base level stuff. It doesn't have to be big. Sometimes small and consistent can get you a lot further.
It's a great piece in the All Blacks book Legacy that James Kerr wrote, where he uses the example of Richie McCaw, who the great All Black captain, who after every test match would be the last one there and would sweep the shed. So literally sweep out the changing room. They made sure the changing room was left really tidy. There's some examples of the Japanese football team as another example, that when they leave their changing rooms at the end of a game, it's in better nick than it was when they arrived. This idea that you leave every room that you are in better than when you were there. No one is too big or too much of a megastar to not clean up after themselves. And it just sets this tone that says we care about the small things, we're across the detail, we want to help, and we want to serve others around us. And I think it's a really nice approach to have. I think your focus on punctuality is perhaps just a little bit bullshit and unnecessary. Not all of the rules apply to all of the people, okay? Just laying that out there. Some of these rules are not for everybody.
One of the things I did early on was, because obviously we present quite a bit, and sometimes if I was going to see or support one of our internal presenters, I just throw a few things in my bag, HDMI cable, the clicker, like just a few things like that, some working pens, just because I just want to make sure that when I turn up, it's sorted, because that's the stuff that actually can derail someone if they were expecting to be able to write on the whiteboard and then suddenly none of their markers work. Now, you should have prepped that earlier, but sometimes being able to be the person that they can go to and fix that situation, like a tech issue, and just being able to solve some of those for someone, it just builds great connection with people. And if you have got the skill set there, just be available, and that's okay, because that's part of teamwork, right? I want that person to do well, and if I can try to guess a few things that might go wrong and provide the solutions there, well, that's just good for everybody.
Two immediate examples come to mind. for me, one really early on my career and one late, like just recently. The early one is not even like I had a career. I was just working at Les Mills. And you remember when Philip Mills said to me, as part of my leadership, my trainee management program, I had to enter the aerobics champs. So I had a week to prepare for the aerobics champs. And I think you had to have like 1:50 of choreography. So I had this little piece of music cut and it was really cute. And I had managed to, in a week, do 1 minute of choreography. And then I had 50 seconds that I just made up on the night. It wasn't even the night, it was the afternoon. And so I was in the novice section, and it comes as no surprise to learn that I did not even make the final, right, of the novices. But the organisers said, we need someone who can be a runner for the judges, because the judges were having trouble. There's like 8 judges, and so they needed all of the scoring sheets to be passed along, but it moved so quickly that if the judges were passing the sheets along, they weren't judging the next person. Yeah, no one had thought of this. I said, sure, I can do it. I'm no longer required to be competing in the evening. My evening's just freed up. So I'm happy to do that. I will be the judge's runner. And it basically meant huddling down, crawling in the dark, along in front of the judge's table. It was the best seat in the house. I could watch all of the other competitors right down from the front of the stage, an amazing view. And I just got to know all of those judges just from being helpful. They all knew me. I'd see them at industry events. These were all really well-respected people in the fitness industry. And, you're the kid that was the scoring runner. And it was just by saying, sure, I could do that. I'm not too proud to help and whatever. And it was actually a really good insight for me and to saying be helpful, not just to people who are powerful and important, but just be helpful in general. And that was really nice for the organiser to have that peace of mind as well. She rewarded me by being a complete and utter cow to me for the rest of my career. We don't have to say her name right now, but you can DM me and I'll tell you, best avoided that woman. Tell you that for free. But then just last week, that tech example that you were talking about, I spoke at a conference for ABC Business Sales in Auckland, and the projector kept breaking. So there was something in the connection between the laptop they were using and the screen that meant it didn't work. And I was getting frankly pissed off. I'm like, we are in one of Auckland's newest hotels, the tech people are there, and the slides kept dying. But this is not my first rodeo, so I'm good, no worries. But there's a young kid there who was organising it, for ABC. He's getting a bit stressed. I'm going, that's a shame. I walked out, left them to it. As I left, there was a speaker who was coming in, a famous New Zealander, a well-known New Zealander, who's just started on the speaking circuit. He was cacking himself, and I've never met him. But I said, hey, look, I've got them warmed up for you. They're ready to go. And he goes, I'm really nervous. I've got all my notes. And he had his notes ready to read his entire speech, which, as you and I know, 30-minute presenter program, Buy It Now team, is going to teach you about that's not a thing. It's not a thing to deliver a speech in that context. He was all nervous. I said encouraging things and left him to it. I found out later that the problems with the projector continued, and he had to just finish his talk early because he didn't have the experience to go, without my slides, what am I? How do I tell my story even if my tech fails? And the thing that I felt bad about was that even though it wasn't my responsibility, he was so nervous, I could have stayed. And if I'd stayed, I would have been able to help the tech guys fix it. And it's not like this Jesus complex. I've got I could have helped. But it's one of those ones I regret. I should have stayed and helped that person, because even if they were falling apart, I could have joined them on the stage and I could have said, hey, tell you what we're going to do now, quick change of plans, I'm going to interview you and I'm going to ask you questions, and that would have rescued the situation both for the audience and and I didn't do that. I regret that. I look back and I go, I could have stayed. So I think if I had listened to what you're saying now, maybe 2 weeks ago, I would have had a different reference to just say, be visibly helpful. It's not much point now going, well, I could help them. Moment's passed. I've missed that opportunity.
Yeah, and if you think about if you had done that, there would have been a ripple effect you don't know who would have seen that.
Totally.
Yeah, and suddenly that just pays off. Yeah.
He would have invited me onto his incredibly successful podcast that people listen to. And I would have then told all those people about our podcast. Yay!
All right, so hopefully there's some stuff in there that is useful around things that you want to be seen doing. If you are new in your career, I would encourage you to stack up the little things of being present, being on time, being a helper. Also stack up the fact that there's opportunities to present not just issues and problems, but come with solutions, and you can be very early in your career and still be doing that. And if you are established in your career, you are not above tidying up. You are not above that stuff. And sometimes being seen doing that stuff sends such a powerful message to newer people in the business. You're not the person that walked by that. You dealt with it. You stepped up. You were in it. You picked up that piece of rubbish that shouldn't have been there. All of that stuff. You're not above it. So be seen doing visible things that create opportunities, and that's going to take you a long, long way.
I want to tell you just before we go, I shared this with an audience this morning, and it sounds really heavy, and I don't mean it to be heavy, but it's important.
Okay.
That, remember when I had that aggressive nuclear grade breast cancer, and it was like,
yes,
scary shit, and mastectomy and chemo and radio and Herceptin and all of that. And you know that I don't really believe in God. I'm not, I don't know where I am on all of that. But I remember at the time saying, Pushy was 4, and I remember saying, let me get her to university. Let me live long enough that she turns 18. And then once she's 18, that's good. That's good. You have me. If the universe says that I've got to die, kill me then. I'm good. That's fine. Just please, whoever is out there, let me get her to university, or whatever she's going to do when she leaves school, let me get her to 18. And that was my kind of plea. That was my prayer, I suppose you could call it. And so, as you know, today she's 18. So today is her 18th birthday. So we've had lunch together here in Christchurch, and that's been like a special moment. The reason I'm telling you this is if I am struck by lightning or if I get hit by a car tonight, then I think the rest of you should start to believe in a higher being, and you should think about which religion or whatever you're going to join now, because it would mean that when I was doing deals with either God or the devil, they were listening and they let me get to this age. What I also think is that I want to renegotiate that deal. I don't feel like I'm done. I feel like there's a few more podcast episodes in me yet. And that's the nature of doing deals with the universe, right? When you say, if you do this, then I will. I don't think it's ever too late to renegotiate. Ever say, I've made it this far, now that I've got, I'm going to be 50 in a couple of weeks, and I want another 50. Give me another 50. Let me get her to 50 now. Let's see what that would look like.
Oh, I love that.
It's an exciting time.
Yeah, I will be texting you at 1 minute past midnight, though, just to check in.
We should release another episode tomorrow so that people aren't on tenterhooks. And all it will say is, I'm alive.
The one where Sasha made it.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.